Howdy ho! It's another episode of The Upgrade. I am Gary Muttley, and he is...
Len Carmichael, Landmine Studios. What's going on?
Oh, you know, we like to talk.
And talk.
So, one of those things is that we just talk and talk and talk, and then we realize, hey, we're talking. So we should keep talking. But, you know, we talk so much that, like, we hit record and then just talk, and, like, we're not even really doing a show. But eventually we'll just kind of start getting into a show. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, well, it's more like we're just having a conversation. It's just two dudes talking. And then two dudes talking turns into you guys listening. And that's what happened today.
That's what happens a lot. And we've been complimented on that. So I'm fine with that. Because in the end, you know what? It's our show. And we'll do it how we want to do it.
Whatever. I do what I want.
But, like I said, some people have complimented us on it. And like the way our shows go, that it's kind of a conversation and not like an interview.
Yeah, I generally hate interviews, so...
Well, we don't have a guest either, so it can't really be an interview.
Dude, you could interview me. Come on.
I'll interview myself.
Interview these nuts.
So what did you have the last time you went to White Castle?
Oh, God. The shits. Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now.
We have very different answers for that interview question.
This past weekend, I decided that I wanted Indian food. I like Indian food. You may not be into Indian food. It is what it is. Listeners, you may be into it. You may not be into it. I'm into it. So I went and I was like, I'm going to try something new. And I was like, let me get the chicken vindaloo. I hear it's pretty spicy. I got home and I had to take off all my clothes as I'm eating the food because I'm sweating so bad. It was the roughest, hottest thing. And the only thing that was saving me was that I had gotten chicken tikka masala. Now, I got chicken tikka masala as like a side just in case. And I ordered it hot. The hot, like, because there's three levels. There's like, there's like regular for like regular ass like normal people. Then there's the medium for people who like it a little spicy. And then I'm like, yeah, give me the hot because like I like spicy shit.
There's rookie, there's pro, and there's MVP.
Right. And I get the hot chicken tikka masala, but I got the chicken vindaloo, which is like off the chart hot. And I was like, I'm like eating the vindaloo, and I'm like, I have to eat some of this tikka masala to like cool this off. And I'm eating it, and it's like remarkably cooler. But the important part is that not that night, but the following night when everything hit the system, like hit the bottom, dude, I was burning myself out of every room that I walked into. It was all just
flames,
firing out of my ass. It was absolutely terrible.
See, White Castle won't do that to you.
It'd just be water. It'd just be pure water.
Oh, what did
this fire hose?
My friend Kevin, my old singer, used to say, talking about Taco Bell, sit and spray.
Yeah, basically. You know what? I had Taco Bell the night before I had the chicken vindaloo, so it didn't help the whole situation. No, I'm trying to wreck my entire system,
dude.
I got.
Dude,
I got no chill.
You got to call the hotline, man. Like, you are obviously having some serious mental health concerns if you're doing that. Like, dude, don't jump. I'm
gonna tell you right now.
Oh my lord, what are you?
The Indian food was fucking delicious. there was. Have you ever had it?
I'm not a fan of Indian food. I've tried a couple of things, but in general, I'm not a fan. Oh God, I don't even remember. It was so long ago. It was probably some kind of curry something.
All of it is curry. All of it is curry.
Yeah, I don't remember. I mean, it was also probably in a foreign country, so I don't know if that counts for anything.
Oh, yeah, don't fucking count, bro. All right.
Like, I'm pretty sure I had it in Holland.
Yeah, that just don't count, son.
I've probably tried it here too. I honestly don't remember.
I'm telling you right now.
I eat like a fucking toddler.
You do. You like chicken fingers. I like chicken fingers. I like pizza, but no meat on my pizza. Nah. I want plain pizza. All day. I only eat plain pizza.
I mean,
once in a while. I got no real issue with plain pizza, but my current go-to is pepperoni, bacon, and cheesesteak, all together on top of a regular ass pizza, and it's fucking delicious.
Yeah, see, pepperoni I can't fuck with.
Well, you're wrong.
It's just greasy as shit.
And delicious. That's the best part, is the grease. Are you planning a food intervention on me now?
Greasy on the way out.
No, it's the best.
Listen, dude.
Keeps the system.
You'll never hear me criticize anybody, because, like I said, I eat like a fucking toddler. So, like, who the fuck am I to say anything to anybody about fucking food? Like, oh, you're eating chicken fingers again? Like, leave me alone.
London only eats chicken fingers for the most part. He's like, chicken fingers? I'm in. Chicken nuggets? I'm in. Tater tots? I'm in.
Yeah, so like, you won't hear me criticizing. Like, I may bust balls about White Castle, but I'm not like, oh, I can't believe you won't eat White Castle. Like, fuck at it. It's just like talking about people with the vaccine and fucking shaming people. Like, you think I'm gonna shame somebody for like eating fucking White Castle? Like, I can't believe you won't put that in your body.
You'll do this, but you won't do that. You could get with this, but you could get with that.
Because this is where it's at. So, I want to ask you about something else.
Okay.
But I'm going to kind of pose it in a way, since you're recording.
Mm-hmm.
Are you recording? Yeah, it is. Okay.
Yeah, we're recording.
Okay. No, I guess they changed the layout of Skype a little bit, so things are in different places now. Because the buttons are different on the bottom now, too.
Yeah, it's all back.
I'm gonna do this a certain way so that if we want to actually use this,
I assumed we were already in it and we were using it.
Yeah.
So.
Because I don't know your thoughts on this, and I'm actually curious because somebody asked me about it, and I feel like maybe we could take this and maybe throw it into another podcast or something, because it's kind of timely. People have asked me about how I feel about this whole Israel-Palestine thing that's going on.
Okay. You want to know how I feel about it?
Well, I do want to know how you feel. I'm going to put it out there how I feel about it. Because a few friends of mine have asked me about it recently and were wondering if we were going to talk about it on the podcast. I don't really have much of an opinion, because I've stated on the show before that foreign policy is not really my strong suit. And I look at it a lot in the context of how other people look at us.
Mm-hmm.
But I also firmly believe, and this plays into this, that we need to keep our nose out of all this business elsewhere. I am not pro or anti-Israel or Palestine. I know there's a long history there, and there's a lot of weird stuff that's gone on, and people are very polarized about it. I also know that America puts a lot into Israel. And I don't like that. And it has nothing to do with Israel. It has to do with my whole policy of like, one, why aren't we putting more of that into our own country? And two, in a lot of these cases, as we've seen with a lot of these other countries, when we start putting our nose into that shit, that's when we start creating the next wave of people who hate America. Because why are we there? Why do we have our nose all up in this shit? Like, don't we have our own problems?
Oh, and we do have our own problems.
That's what I'm saying. And the thing that bothered me that I was hearing about in the past couple of days is that we've recently sold a whole lot of weapons to Israel.
Yep. That I know about.
The other thing that bothered me is just the fact that there's a lot of innocent people that have gotten killed recently in all this bombing that's going on.
Due to the weapons that we fucking sold them.
I mean, I don't know, I don't know what the gap is between like, okay, hey, we're going to sell you these and like actual delivery date. Like,
right.
I don't expect them to show up in 2 days like Amazon. I don't think you can order missiles off Amazon. I could be wrong.
No, but we're preparing them for the next attack.
That's the thing. So it looks kind of sketchy that like we make this weapons deal and then 2 days later all of a sudden they feel threatened and bomb a bunch of buildings. The other thing that was really bad that a lot of people are upset about right now is that they bombed a building that had a whole bunch of news agencies in it, including the Associated Press, and they're not happy about it. So I'm starting to wonder if maybe they've overstepped a bit because the news or agencies are not happy about it, and you start to see places like CNN questioning certain things who would never question these things before. So I don't know. I think it looks real bad when there's talk about a ceasefire and Biden isn't front and center about the ceasefire.
Yeah, well,
because obviously a lot of innocent people are getting killed and a lot of innocent people are getting put in the danger zone, whether they're children, which I've seen a lot of footage of recently, or whether it's people that work for news organizations. But, somebody's got to put a stop to this thing.
Well, let me be as clear as I can. Biden doesn't give a fuck about any of that shit.
Well, we knew that.
And he never did.
Right.
So expecting him to do anything or say anything other than support would be dumb.
Right.
Not that I'm calling you dumb.
Well,
but anybody else looking for that is just, you're waiting for something that is never going to happen.
Just to be clear, I said it's a bad look. I never said I expected it, because as we have been saying from before the election, we don't really expect much from this dude.
Well, he's not a progressive. That's what this all comes
but
down to. He's all in on the things that he was all in on before.
Well, that's what I was going to say, that he's just a continuation of a lot of the same shit. Because a lot of people expected him to suddenly handle this thing with the kids at the border, and that didn't happen.
No way.
Expected him to handle a lot of these other things, and that didn't
happen either. And it's not going to happen.
Like, other than the vaccine stuff, which the ball was already rolling on that. But that's another story, because it's like the Trump people don't want to take the vaccine, but meanwhile, the storyline is that Trump made the vaccine happen. So, like, why don't you want to take the vaccine?
Right, your dude made it happen. So then
but
take it.
That's a whole other tangent to go on. But bottom line, I didn't expect Biden to do shit. So I'm not disappointed. I'm just saying it's a shitty look, but I'm not remotely surprised by it. I expected a shitty look. And I expect a lot more shitty looks.
We don't really have any business being over there. We don't have any business being involved in it. And I'm talking from ass to mouth. Like, we shouldn't be providing them with weapons. And we shouldn't be sticking our nose in the business at all because it's not us. Unless we're over there fighting, honestly, with the Palestinians because it's actually their land. And we're just allowing the colonization of their land to happen. It's not fair or equitable to the people. But I don't live there. What do I know?
Right. I mean, like I said, I don't really follow it too closely. I never have. But I also know that there's a long history of conflict there. Mm-hmm. And as I've said with a lot of other Middle Eastern countries, we're not going to go in there and suddenly change the way they do shit. If they are fighting amongst themselves for thousands of years, we're not going to suddenly sweep in and they're going to be like, oh, hey, you know what? You're right. We should piece this up. Oh, hey, you're right. We should let women drive. Oh, you're right. Let's change the way we do things so that we're going to respect people and we're not going to stone people. Like, that's not... Like, that's silly to think that you're just going to walk in there and everybody's going to be like, okay, you're right. That's not... After thousands of years of conflict, like, that's not going to happen. All that we end up doing, and it was proven with a lot of this stuff with, like, ISIS, is that we go in there and we just create the next generation of enemies. So, like...
And the cycle continues.
What are we doing there? And the more... Like I said, I don't follow it. I've heard a lot of talk about it in the past week or two as this thing has really started to heat up. And I got to say, what I hear, I don't like. And the other thing that I've noticed a lot, and like I said, I'm not anti-Israel.
Oh, I'm not anti-Israel. I'm not anti-Jewish people. That's not what I'm saying. Oh, no,
for sure. But I say anti-Israel because I do know people who are Jewish, some of whom have family in Israel, who don't agree with what's going on right now. They think it's messed up, and they're anti, and they're vocally anti about it. So that's why I say Israel and not necessarily the Israeli, because as we all know, look at America. Yeah, just because America does some dumb shit, that doesn't mean that I'm signing off on it. Mm-hmm. Or we all catch the bad rap for it.
Yeah, anything I have to say about it has nothing to do specifically with the people. It's government.
Right. But the point that I'm making is that I've seen over the years a lot of weird stuff in relation to Israel go on in this country, and it's just weird to me. For instance, they were trying to pass a law at one point, and I don't know if this ever happened, to make it illegal to, I think it was to disparage, like, businesses in New York State. I forget the details of it, but it was something with businesses in New York State not disparaging
Israel.
And it's just like, when do we do that with anybody else? Like, why would we do that? Like, what if we passed something that businesses in New York State couldn't disparage Mexico or Canada or Iraq or the Bahamas? Like, why are we doing that? It just didn't make sense to me, and I thought it was very weird.
You gotta follow the money, buddy.
Well, that's what it is, and that's why I don't like it, because one of the things that comes up, and the main reason why people like you and me identify with progressive causes, is because one of their big targets is to take the money out of that equation.
You need to. It has to come out.
It has to, but nobody's going to do it because all these people that are in there are making money out of it.
Yep.
And I also have to say, as usual, as always happens, who's the one in Congress being loud about this thing?
AOC, baby. Yep. AOC.
And she's right. Because
okay.
Well, I'm not necessarily, like I said, I'm not anti-Israel. I'm not pro-Palestine. Like, I don't have a side in any of this, but she's the one asking the questions. And I've seen a lot of coverage talking about the fact that she's doing what none of these other politicians would do and asking questions and talking about why are we giving these people weapons? Why are we selling these people weapons? And why are we so involved in all this shit?
Look, I know people want to shit on AOC. They love to shit on AOC.
Of course.
It's actually become a favorite pastime.
And by the way,
yeah,
not to get deep into the Marjorie Taylor Greene thing, because she tried to go after AOC also.
Yeah.
But has anybody been able to actually get AOC?
Not yet.
No. So all these people trying to make their move and trying to shoot their shot so that they could get her and be a hero to their people.
Failing at every turn.
And by their people, I mean Republicans, because it's always these Republicans that try to be hot shots, and they're like, oh, well, you know what? It's like those rappers that try to diss somebody way bigger than them.
Right.
Hoping that they'll get that attention.
Get that shine.
It's that same shit. It's that same thing. You're trying to get that shine, going after the big dog, and you know what?
You're not ready for it.
Nobody has been able to get her at all. Many have tried, but nobody has been able to get her yet. And I make no bones about it. I'm a fan because she's out there. She's actually doing things. She's saying things that I feel a lot of people aren't saying. But listen, if somebody gets her, I'll be the first one to admit
that she got.
Yeah, that's I'm fine. Not trying to whitewash shit.
Hey, but even if she gets got, it's how you roll with the punches. Like, if something happens and she's wrong, if she can admit that she was wrong, I still got no issue.
Right.
I got no issue. Like, you know everything that you know until you find out something else.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I'm going to say is that if AOC was running for presidency, whatever, right now, and we were going to have to decide if she was somebody to put out there, and you know, for a primary or whatever, you know who my ass is voting for? Her. Because of all the politicians out there right now, she's the only one I can trust.
I agree. And I always say,
I don't really trust politicians.
That's what I was just going to say. I don't trust politicians. She's
on the right side of everything that I need somebody to be on the right side of right now. Could she fall off? Certainly.
Sure.
And when she falls off, would I call her on it? Certainly.
Absolutely. But she's the only one I see out there. Well, not just her, but let's say the squad.
The squad.
Which, by the way, is a bunch of people who happen to be of color.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, people hate them.
Oh, yeah. Full attack mode on them at all times.
Right. Because they're the enemy. They're the others. And those people are out there looking and calling for accountability for a lot of shit. And it's amazing to me how easy people are to just want to avoid accountability. And I'm not talking about those people that are in Congress or whatever. I'm talking about regular people that are like, oh, well, why should we hold them accountable? Like, What the fuck?
Then how are we holding anyone accountable?
But that's what I mean. Like, they were so quick. Oh, well, I don't want my tax money to go to Mexicans, to illegal aliens. But then you find these people that are in Congress spending tax money on stupid shit, and they're totally okay with that. They're only worried about it as long as those brown people don't get it. Mm-hmm. As long as those black people don't get it. Like, it's just it's mind-boggling. It's just so ridiculous. So when you're somebody that asks for accountability, I'm in. Because there is no accountability. And that's not even just a politician thing. I've run into
across
that
the board.
In many jobs that I've worked. I've run into that in all kinds of places where there's no accountability for anything. And you deal with it all the time. Try to get in touch with customer service people.
Yeah, right.
For Christ's sake, you can never get a live human
on a fucking phone anymore. They don't. It doesn't even exist anymore.
It's like a mouse maze.
They have 3 people working the phones total in an entire company, and if you get somebody on the phone, they're even surprised you got to them.
Right, but that's what I'm talking. Like, who's accountable for that?
They're like, how'd you get here?
Yeah, they're shocked when you get them on the phone. Like,
you're never supposed to make it through the maze. How?
Right, but that's what I mean. Like, I'll use Uber Eats sometimes. There's no way to get a human on the phone with Uber Eats. Everything is chat, and when you get their response, it's obvious that they didn't even read what you sent them.
Yeah, they don't give a
honestly, I've had that happen many times where they'll respond something to me, and then I'll type back in all caps like, "Did you even read what I sent you? Are you human?" And then
the answer is no.
That's when suddenly they'll send me like a $5 or $10 credit or something.
You're like, I don't want the credit. I want fucking food.
Yeah, well, not even just that, because usually it's because somebody fucked something up. But like, I want to know that I'm dealing with a goddamn human.
Yeah, that ship has sailed.
Yeah, but that's that accountability, because there is no accountability in the corporate world.
Just let the computers handle it. Everything will be fine.
Yeah, because 9 times out of 10, when you're chatting with somebody on one of these things, it's a fucking bot. Mm-hmm. It's programmed to spit out certain responses. But the bottom line is, like I said, if you're somebody looking for accountability, I'm in.
Me too.
I'm in. And all this shit with the money and everything else, because everybody's so selective. Because, example, not to go on a tangent, but here's a perfect example, okay? QAnon, one of their big things is, oh, well, we're worried about the children, right? Did you hear a peep out of them about these Mexican kids that were in cages?
No, of course not, because they don't care about brown children.
Do you hear a peep about these Palestinian kids that were killed in these bombings?
They don't care about brown children.
No.
That's not their focus. Their focus is... You know what their focus is.
Well, their focus is the basement of a pizza place where satanic rituals are happening.
Yeah. And my statement on that is, just go have some pizza and shut the fuck up.
Please. Especially part 2. Ugh. Have pizza, but definitely.
Shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up.
That's one thing that I have been enjoying is Malone's posts asking people to just shut the fuck up for at least 5 minutes.
Yeah. It'd be great if everybody would just shut the fuck up about everything.
Shout out to Malone.
He is not wrong at all.
I don't know if you've noticed, but I've been pretty quiet on the internet.
I have noticed, and I figured it has a lot to do with just all these things flying around and a lot of opinions, and you probably just getting tired of the idiocracy.
I just spent this show allows me the ability to have a conversation with someone about it without having to type about it on the internet.
Yeah.
So unless it's, something fresh and I just have a quick off the cuff that I need to get out, I just hold on to it until I get a chance to talk to you about it. And then I move on with it, because shouting about it on the internet isn't getting me anywhere. And I know better.
I will say, for the most part, I try to stick to more humor on there, but I do feel the need to put things out there from time to time. For instance, that recent post that I put up that got a pretty good amount of attention, including from some people that I didn't expect.
I honestly didn't even see it.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what it says.
Okay.
And
did I see it? Did I even react?
Might have. I honestly don't remember. When I'm not posting,
had my head down.
I'm not posting Iron Sheik memes.
See, I'm down with Iron Sheik memes.
Yeah.
I've had my head down just editing my ass off on a couple records, and I can't take some of the bullshit on the internet anymore. I needed to disconnect for a while.
No, listen, you're better off.
And I'm not saying I'm back or anything. I'm not.
Yeah. What I posted, you didn't react to it, so I'm assuming you didn't see it, which is fine. But it's not anything new to you, because we've had these discussions. I said hard truths for some people to swallow. Being anti-Trump doesn't make you pro-Biden or pro-Hillary, and vice versa, which I had originally left out, and then it was pointed out to me that, it works the other way, that if you're anti-Biden or Hillary, that doesn't make you pro-Trump, which is totally true. Being skeptical about the COVID vaccine doesn't make you right-wing or a Trump supporter. And I also added later on, being pro-gun control doesn't make you anti-gun.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, these are not simple black and white issues. Come on, people, you're smarter than this. Which is something that I strongly believe. This was partly sparked from a conversation that I had with a friend of mine who is skeptical about the vaccine,
mm-hmm.
and was getting a tremendous amount of shit from his family, including likening him to a Trump person, which I thought was such a far ridiculous stretch. I understand that there are some people that are skeptical about the vaccine. I have said on here before that I choose not to disclose whether I've gotten the vaccine or not. And I have my own reasons for that. And I feel like there's a twist to all of that that's starting to bother me more and more, which is that I see a lot of people kind of getting on their high horse about it. And also, we're starting to tread towards the show me your papers level, which I don't like either. And when you've got dudes like Perry from Jane's Addiction, who's a notorious drug addict, suddenly starting to try and shame people about what you put in your body, like, come on, dude. Come on. Really?
I don't know. For me, at this point, we've proven that if you end up with COVID, there is a chance you may die.
Right.
The chance is 2%, something low.
It's less than it was because they've learned how to deal with it better.
How to deal with it. Exactly.
And like I said, because of the position that I've chosen to take, I'll play devil's advocate and kind of ride the fence on it, which is fine. That's what I choose. I'm not necessarily anti-vaccine. I also think, offering somebody Mets tickets isn't going to suddenly have somebody say, hey, you know what? I'm going to get that vaccine now.
I think you're wrong. I think some people definitely took that and ran with it. But regardless, that's not where I'm going with it.
Yeah.
So we've determined that the chance of dying from getting COVID is higher than the chance of dying from not getting COVID.
Right.
The chance of dying from getting the vaccine is nowhere near the chance of dying from getting COVID itself. Getting the vaccine helps keep the virus from mutating, because the less people that get infected, the less chance of the mutation of the virus. So for me, I'm not out pressuring people to get the vaccine. I've already said on a number of shows that I got it. I got both shots. I got the Moderna. I don't care. I did what I needed to do for me and my family.
Exactly.
If you choose not to do it, as long as you accept the fact that you might die from that choice, that's on you. Now, if you tell me you didn't get vaccinated, I also don't want to hear that. I don't want to see you recoil from me recoiling from you. Like, I don't want to hear that, you know, I'm being crazy when I personally think the opposite. Am I going to tell you you have to go out and get the vaccine? No, I'm not going to tell you that. But I also might be like, hey, I don't really need you around me right now, because I still don't know what could happen to me being around you. And that is my concern. That's my concern with all these events that are happening. Right. So the UFC had 15,000 people in the Toyota Center in Texas this weekend. They had a whole bunch of people, like 14,000 people in an arena in Florida. We've got the LA show. We've got the New York show. You know, like, it makes me uncomfortable because I don't know the science. And I know they don't know it either.
Well, yeah, that's the problem.
And I'm not saying I'm right, but I don't know that I'm wrong.
I was always someone who said, you know, I'm good with the science. Like, I'm all for the science. I want the science to be right. But I think as time has gone on, the science has gotten a little wacky now, because you got these people, and I talked about it recently, you got these people that say 6 feet, 60 feet, doesn't matter, still a chance. And you've got these other people saying other things that, like, oh, it was on surfaces, now it's not on surfaces. And, like, the other part of it too is that suddenly all these things are being relaxed now, and it's a little surprising.
Well, I personally think it's too early.
Even science people, like the guy on CNN was shocked because they didn't expect it to happen. They didn't expect it to be relaxed like that. And a lot of them are talking about it and kind of like, yeah, I don't know, it's kind of surprising. It's like when those guys are taken aback by it. Yeah, when those guys are taken aback by it. But again, it's just to the point, just like what happened initially. If you sit there and you really think about it, you start to worry that everything's a fucking work, like wrestling. That, is it really that, or are they motivated by companies? Are they motivated by politicians? Are they motivated by money?
Well, everything is motivated by money.
That's part of the problem.
I have also said that is that you have to follow the money.
Right.
Now, there's no money in them giving out free vaccinations. It just doesn't exist. You know, the government's kicking in something, but that's coming from somewhere.
Right.
It's not an endless supply. It's going to run out at some point.
By the way, they're not all free. I know people that have gotten billed. They've seen that their insurance company gets billed for the vaccine. So,
Oh,
the
I know
insurance
that
companies
the
still getting the
insurance
money.
companies are billing
Yeah.
on that for sure. But I'm talking about my personal when I got the shot, I didn't personally have to come out of pocket on it.
Oh, sure. No, they're not. I guess they're not doing co-pays and all that other shit, but in the end, there's still money changing hands. So it's not
For
just
sure.
like, hey, it's free for. It's not like Oprah, like it's shot for you, it's shot for you, shots for everybody. Somebody's still getting
Somebody is.
money.
But what I'm saying is that money is going to disappear at some point. And they have to find a way to get more money in
Right.
at some point. And that's my fear with them opening the floodgates too soon, is that they're just playing it so that they can get that money.
Well,
Because if we get another wave, it just puts it right back on to where
Right.
we were.
right. Well, the other thing I don't like is that now they're kind of pitting people against each other. They're pitting all the little people against
We've
each other.
always
because,
been pitted against each other.
well, of course, but now we've got. Well, we're gonna open. We're gonna open all these sporting events to full capacity, but we're gonna have a vaccinated section and a non-vaccinated section.
Oh, is that what they said?
Oh, sure.
I didn't see
A
that.
lot. There's a bunch of events because Cuomo spoke today, and he had James Dolan, who runs Madison Square Garden. He was on there, and they were talking about a bunch of stuff, and they were talking about sporting events, and they were talking about having a vaccinated section and a non-vaccinated section. So now it's like now we're starting to get to that. This is what I said I was uncomfortable with, this whole show me your papers thing. Because now it's like we're going to start segregating people because we want to shame these people. And I think, as I've said before, I understand why a lot of people are skeptical about the vaccine. I think over time we haven't seen complications, so that helps the cause. But there are some people that are still going to be skeptical of it. And you're not going to turn these people around by shaming them. Because a lot of them, I know, because I'm this way with a lot of things, and I know a lot of people are also, and I said this before on the show, the worst way to get people to do shit is to be up their ass about it, because then they're just going to dig their heels in and go the other way. And it's looking at it from an outside perspective, these people are pushing this vaccine so hard. I'm not surprised that a lot of people are like, because it's like you're pushing too hard, man. Like, chill the fuck out a little bit. Like, because they're talking about, oh, well, we got to get everybody vaccinated, and everybody's got, and we gotta force these people to get vaccinated. Like, why are we forcing people to do shit? Like, I understand that the science says that it's better if everybody gets vaccinated, but we also have a long history in this country of bullshit, and especially in recent years with a lot of different things. So you can't be surprised that a lot of people don't trust the government. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you could go a lot of different ways with it, but that's why I said from the jump, I understand why people are skeptical, because we have this long history, and there's different reasons for different people. And in the end, like you said, it's a personal choice.
So for me, I'm thinking about it this way. A year ago, before all the real nonsense around this vaccine, if they were like, we have a vaccine for this, before everybody dug their heels in, a lot more people would have taken it. But there's been just so much bullshit over the last year that now I feel like people are scared to take it and admit that they took it.
Like the Orange King.
Yes.
I think that's the case for some people. I think some people are skeptical of it, and I think some people just are rejecting the hard sell.
Well, it's hard
this.
for me to like accept the rejection of the hard sell, because if you were born basically any time after 62, you had to get the MMR vaccine before you could go to school. And if you go look in your records that your parents kept or whatever, there's a vaccine card. And you had to fucking carry that fucking thing into the doctor all the time. This thing ain't nothing new. None of this is new. The only new thing is that they got the fucking research done faster than in previous vaccines. Right. But that was done because half of the research had already been done. And they were piggybacking off of information they already knew, and they pushed through clinical trials significantly faster than they normally would, because there's usually a wait time to get people signed up and then as well test it and go through the analysis post-test. They didn't have that problem because they had enough people willing to do the fucking thing. So for me, the fact that there were 4 or 5 vaccines developed, one fell off because we know it was bad, and then you know that the Pfizer one is like 96 or 97% effective, and the Moderna one is like 95 or 94% effective. And there's been like 400 cases of people actually like getting sick from the vaccine. I don't understand what the fucking problem is based on how many people have been vaccinated at this point.
But that's all scare tactics, because all it takes, because, oh God, it's idiocracy. Because, yeah, the numbers are small, but these people can't process numbers. So all they hear is that, oh, there's something wrong with the vaccine. That's all they hear. But that's all they hear with a lot of different things. It's like the other things, there might be such a minor issue, but...
Well, it was like
put it this way. Hey, remember when New York City was the riot capital of the fucking world?
Yeah.
Perfect example. And by the way, speaking of that, I believe that there's at least a decent amount of people that are very skeptical about this vaccine because of the Trump connection to it. Which is a crazy flex, because you've got the Trump people who don't want to take the vaccine because they don't trust it, but meanwhile their guy supposedly was the one that helped make it. And then on the flip side, people who don't trust Trump see it as Trump's... I mean, I don't necessarily know for a fact that they see it as Trump's thing, but I can imagine that's a factor in at least a couple of cases where they see it as Trump's vaccine and don't trust Trump and don't trust the government in general and don't trust pharmaceutical companies, which...
I understand it.
But that's what I mean. I understand all of it because there's so much distrust to go around that I'm not surprised. And I feel like the hard sell and like the bullying and the pushing to shame these people, like I don't think any of that stuff really helps, because I think you're talking about a long history of distrust that goes back really fucking long time. I mean, geez, you know, I could give you 100 examples. 9/11 is one example where the government said, "Oh no, it's safe down there," and you got firefighters still
dying from it,
fighting to get proper coverage 20 years later. You know, and that's just one of 100 examples that I could give you as to why these are all examples of distrust of the government and the medicine in general, and you've given people these reasons for so long, so you can't really be surprised. And all you can do is hope that these people come around. And the truth is, some of these people ain't going to come around. So you just have to look at your numbers and talk about how things are going to go. And you have to chalk up to it the fact that you're not going to get 100% with the vaccinations. It's not going to happen. So if your attitude is doom and gloom that, oh, well, if we don't get that, we'll never achieve herd immunity and all whatever other bullshit catchphrase they want to throw around, in the end, it doesn't matter, because you can sit there and hope, or you can come up with a realistic plan for how it is, because of the reality that we're living in, which is that there's a lot of distrust that is well founded all around.
So do you not believe that herd immunity is a real thing?
I'm not a scientist. I really don't know. I've mentioned before how much I hate catchphrases, and that's a catchphrase that gets thrown around a lot. That is just it's something that's used to kind of beat people over the head with it. That we're never going to achieve herd immunity. We're never going to achieve herd immunity if everybody doesn't get vaccinated. Like, okay, everybody's not going to get vaccinated. Now what? Does that mean the apocalypse is here? Or are we going to look at things from the perspective of like, okay, well, if what is a realistic percentage? I don't know if it's real or not. I'm not a scientist. What do I know? What I do know, like I said, is that I have this aversion to catchphrases, because I always think of like bullshit corporate catchphrases. And I hate how they use these things to kind of beat people over the head. And 9 times out of 10, the people using it to beat someone else over the head, they don't even understand what the phrase means. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Right. So like, most of the people that are talking to you about herd immunity have no idea what the fuck herd immunity is. So I don't throw that word around, because I don't really have a full understanding of it. But I just feel like it's another catchphrase that people are going to use to make themselves, to make it like they're smart when they're not. And to use it in a lot of cases, they're going to use it against somebody else as a way to kind of shame them or bully them. Oh, well, you didn't get the vaccine, we're never going to achieve herd immunity. Like, come on.
Well,
I just think
I'm going to use the word just because it's the only word that actually fits the specific conversation. But for me, when you're talking about herd immunity, it's likened to any livestock or things like that. The right. more of your livestock that have caught and survived a sickness inherent in whatever you're growing, etc., whether it's, or not even growing, but they're out in the wild. The more of them that catch it and live, the better a chance that future generations and the current generation will survive it, because you build an immunity over time to it.
Right.
That's what I'm led to understand about it. Now, I don't think that we necessarily need everybody, and I'm no scientist. I've said this 1,000 times, I'll say it again. We don't need single person to get the vaccination. With the combination of people who have already had it, and the combination of people who are getting vaccinated, we will achieve herd immunity over time. The issue, as I stated before, is the mutation.
Right.
And that is what the hurry and rush is about around people trying to get others to take this vaccination, is that the more we can be sure that enough people have been exposed and have antibodies, the better chance we have to not have these mutations have nearly the significant effect of us basically raw dogging it.
Right.
I'm not telling, as I said, I'm not telling anybody they have to go get it. Whatever. I don't give a shit. You want to die? Die. I'm not fucking gonna worry about it. Do I know what's gonna happen to me from taking the fucking vaccine? No. I'll find out. But I have a pretty good idea that it's not going to be death or dismemberment, because at this point, anything major would have happened. You know, I don't see what the fucking problem is, and it's hard for me to understand. Everybody that's complaining about it, I don't know what's in it, and yada yada yada. Most of them drink and smoke and fucking do fucking cocaine and whatever. Like, it's
that's
like,
certainly true, but that works the
out.
other way too. Like I was saying about Perry from Jane's Addiction, there's plenty of people that suddenly are on their high horse trying to tell other people what to do with their body, when meanwhile they're sniffing plenty of coke and doing all kinds of other shit. And
I'm not telling you not to sniff coke. But
that's part of why I kind of reject a lot of this stuff, just because I feel like it's just another one of these things that's being used to separate people and turn people against each other, because now everybody's on some superiority bullshit with it. Because you know what? Did I get the vaccine? Did I not get the vaccine? It's nobody's fucking business. And you know what? It was important enough to be nobody's business that they passed fucking laws about that shit. They got HIPAA laws, which means your medical history and your medical records can't be revealed to other people. Mm-hmm. But all of a sudden, everybody's like, "Oh, hey, look at my vaccine card. Look at this. Look." You know what? It's nobody's business what I put in my body. And I feel like too many people have just totally abandoned that to get on this trend and to be cool, because, hey, let me post my vaccine card on fucking Instagram.
You know what I didn't do?
Post your vaccine card on Instagram.
Post my fucking vaccine card anywhere. You know why? Because I don't give a shit. I did it for me.
Right. But I wish more people, and that's... my rejection of a lot of this stuff isn't necessarily based on the vaccine. It's based on people's attitudes about it. Because everybody's on this fucking superiority shit that, like, oh, well, you're... And it goes on both sides, because we talk about how, you know, wearing a mask makes you fucking liberal. But, like, all of a sudden, like, plenty of people don't want to take the vaccine for very valid reasons, and, oh, you're a Trump supporter. Like, no. And I just think it's another one of those things that creates more division. And also, the whole privacy thing. Like, I don't care what you do with your body, but all of a sudden now you're gonna demand to know if I'm vaccinated. Like I'm not really with that. Like I said, they passed laws to prevent that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But all of a sudden, all these people, because I've ranted about selfie culture a million times on here. I don't even want to
talk about that.
But this is an extension of it, because now everybody is always out for themselves, but all of a sudden they're up your ass for you to do your part. Like, dude, you never gave a fuck about anybody else. All of a sudden now you want to make sure that everybody's doing their part. No, because you're just another selfish asshole trying to be on this new trend of shaming people for not getting the vaccine. Like, no. No. I'm not with that in any shape or form. And that's the problem now, because now we've made it cool so that, like, oh well, we're gonna sit you over in the leper section of Madison Square Garden. Like that's not, like, how is that okay? Like, how have we let it get to this point that, like, and I understand the health issues and all that stuff, but, like, we've just, it just is crossing so many lines that are just, like, uncomfortable, in my opinion. And it's all okay because we got to open things up and we got to do this and we got to do, because here's the thing too. It's all the honor system. You don't know who's vaccinated. They say, oh, well, if you're not vaccinated, you got to wear a mask. Yeah, okay. That's like, oh, it used to be that you weren't allowed to smoke weed on the street. Yeah, okay. 10 years ago, when I used to work for a website, I used to walk from the Port Authority bus terminal over to the office, which was on Fifth Avenue. So that's like 3 avenues over. Mm-hmm. And all I smelled, and this was 10 years ago, long before weed was legal, all I smelled that entire walk, morning and night, was weed. So, like, you really think suddenly on the honor system people are going to be like, oh, well, I know I'm not vaccinated, so I should put on this mask. Like, they're not going to give a shit. This whole honor system thing is a joke.
Hey,
so the realistic...
If they said tomorrow, you know what, none of this shit's working and we're shutting down again, I'd be perfectly fine with it. I don't give a fuck.
Right. But the idea that these people, that anybody's going to be, and I'm not passing judgment on these people, because let's face it, most of us cut corners in some form or another in life. If you tell me you never took a paper clip from your job or some other shit, you never jumped a turnstile, like, most of you are probably lying. You know, let's just be real about it. But you know, suddenly you think that people are going to wear masks because of that. Like, that's not how this works. So it's all the honor system. So if you think that it makes a difference, like, you're just trying to shame people who haven't gotten the vaccine, but it's not. It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. And I
see. I don't look at it as shame. I just have a different view on it. And you know, I just don't see it. I just don't see it as shame.
See, I see it as shame simply because people are assholes, and we've degenerated so much in recent years because, like I said, look at the people screaming about wearing a mask. Look at the people screaming about having to stay 6 feet apart. What's his name? There was video that came out today. Rick Schroeder from Silver Spoons.
That fucking cocksucker. Oh,
yeah. Well,
I'm gonna have to cut that one out. 123.
Here's that dude screaming at a guy working at Costco because the guy had to tell him to put his mask on because Costco still has, a thing in place that customers have to wear masks, which they're perfectly in their right to do.
I'd be fine with it if they never relent on it. I don't care.
I mean, I'm with that meme where it says, Fauci says you have to you still have to wear a mask if you're ugly.
Yeah, whatever.
But here's that dude screaming at somebody at Costco because they told him he's still got to wear a mask. So you got it on both sides. You got people like that, but then I've heard of stories of people screaming at other people for not wearing a mask. So that's why I say it's shaming, because you think once you put the leper section into Madison Square Garden, you think people aren't going to talk shit to those people? You go to a Knicks game and everybody's drunk and they're like, "Oh, you're one of those people over there, huh?
Hey,
don't give me COVID."
You don't think that there's the people fighting in the fucking stands anyway?
I mean, they're going to fight anyway,
but
it's just another example. They're going to fight no matter what. I mean,
yeah. So let them fight. Whatever.
Too bad the Rangers didn't make the playoffs. Or see plenty of fights there too. But I just think it's another one of those things that, like I said, I see it as shame because I see a lot of people on their high horse talking a lot of shit. And it's not even just like internet shit. I see people talking shit in person because they feel that bold with it. So I just think I don't know. It's all just weird to me.
I don't know. My 5G reception is fucking great right now.
Yeah, I just don't. I think we've degenerated as a culture so much.
Oh well, the idiocracy is real.
Yeah, it's all idiocracy, and like I said, I know you don't see it as shaming, but I see it as shaming because at this point we've gotten to the level. Yeah, there's a lot of internet shit talkers, but we've gotten to the level where people talk shit in person sometimes too, when they feel safe to do it, and they're going to do it. And I just think we need less separation right now. Not to be on some I have a dream shit or something, but like there's so much bullshit pulling people apart. Like it's just another thing to turn people against each other, just like racial shit and financial shit and everything else.
Well, let me ask you this. What if we find out, let's call it 3 years from now, we're still in this fucking mess. And they're like, hey, if you assholes had actually just gotten the fucking vaccine, we'd be done with it. We have the proof. Here's all the numbers. Then what? And the same thing could be said that, you know what, like, hey, you know, the vaccine was bad. And, you know, now you're all sick. Oh, well.
I mean, same thing could be said of like, oh, if you assholes would have just worn masks.
Well, that's already been proven. So I'm not even going to go to that fucking argument, because we could have been out of this. We could have been out of this with no fucking vaccine.
Oh, sure, but that's all old news and Donald Trump and
that's why I'm asking you.
It's all denial.
That's why I'm talking about, like, the reality is that, okay, well, you know, we denied that we should wear the fucking masks, and now we're in this shit, like, for real. Now we're denying that we should take the fucking vaccine, and now we're just fucking doubling down on the goddamn stupid. Like, I understand that you don't want to push people to get something they don't want to get, but you know what? If we had pushed people to wear a fucking mask from the goddamn first day, then we wouldn't even have to have had this goddamn conversation.
Yeah, but we also, the way I see it, we were set up to fail long ago because, like I said, there's such a long history of distrust that you can't be surprised. And I understand.
I mean,
that doesn't help the situation.
I understand the distrust. I mean, all you have to think about is the Tuskegee Airmen.
But that's a great example of what I'm talking about, because you could look at that. You could look at all of these experiments. Like I said, this is stuff that that ship started sailing before you or I were born.
Oh yeah.
But in our lifetime, there's been plenty of reasons why we shouldn't trust the government. We shouldn't trust big pharmaceutical companies. Some of us will still do it, but you can't be surprised that a lot of people won't. But do you get mad at them, or do you get mad at our whole culture that created that? Like, yeah, some people are stupid. But I could tell you, I know people who are not stupid, who have issues with the vaccine, and I think they have legit. I may not necessarily agree with the issues that they have, but that doesn't mean that their issues aren't legitimate. You know, everybody makes their own personal decisions.
And again, I'm fine with people making bad decisions because people make bad decisions end over end.
Right.
We've been on record.
Truth be told, we don't know if it's a bad decision.
We don't. But we've been on record as saying, I said at least, I won't get it until I've seen enough convincing proof that it's low danger.
Right. Nobody's growing a third arm or something.
Right. And I feel like they've proven that.
Right.
Now, that works for me, and that's how I handled it. I waited till there were millions of people who had it before I went and got it. I felt comfortable enough in doing it.
Right.
If somebody else doesn't feel comfortable enough in doing it, fine. But I also can't feel bad for them when the world decides that they're going to move forward with or without them.
Right, but does the world need to completely exclude them?
I don't think it's a complete exclusion, though. If you are still able to go to the game and enjoy yourself, but you got to sit in the other section away from the people that are actually well. If you told me, okay, well, guess what?
Well, here's the twist, and once again, I got to play devil's advocate here.
You could lie about it.
Who says that those people are not well?
Who says that they are?
Who says that you're well? There's still people who get the vaccine that have gotten COVID.
Could. Certainly.
And
it's just lower chance.
And let's face it, because here's another thing that I think about a lot. Anything and everything that we deal with, there's a certain level of suspension of disbelief. You get a COVID test. Do you know how to read a COVID test? Like, can you actually look at it under a microscope and know? No, right? So you're putting your trust in that person that takes that test. And I'm not going to this level, but I'm sure there are plenty of people that could go to this level, that maybe all these positive COVID tests are all bullshit. Who knows?
I don't know.
Nobody knows. All these things that are going on in Israel and Palestine, did you see it with your own eyes? No. Neither did I. Suspension of disbelief, because you know what? It could all be bullshit. Everything that we see on the news could be bullshit. Because none of it you witness with your own eyes unless you happen to see the shooting on your corner or something. Or the explosion in the house down the street that made the news. You don't see 99% of it. So it's all suspension of disbelief. And that's just the reality that we deal with. Because that's how life is. We're not just contained to our little farm like in the old days. But we have to trust somebody you have to trust that doctor that sticks that thing up your nose.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody didn't trust that doctor, I couldn't really blame them. I may think at times that some of the distrust is a little overboard, but that's for me. But with all this stuff that's gone on, it's like I can understand people distrusting a lot of shit. I have trouble with people believing certain things like QAnon shit. But I can understand and sympathize a bit more with people who don't believe shit. I was reading a thing today about a guy who won on Jeopardy, and he at one point put a sign up. He put up 3 fingers like this, and all of these people were convinced that it was the white power sign.
It
wasn't. He did it because it was his 3rd time on the show, because he had won the first couple of times. Because the first time he flashed 1 finger, the second time he flashed the 2nd finger, the 3rd time he flashed the 3rd finger, and it went into a whole thing because people got this whole letter writing campaign, including all of these past contestants, convinced that he flashed the white power sign. All these people, I mean, there's a certain level of intelligence involved with being a Jeopardy contestant, which I think we can all agree on. All of them, because they had a letter, like a huge letter signed by all these people, convinced that he flashed the white power sign. There's no evidence at all other than him holding up the 3 fingers, which, by the way, I've done in a million pictures over the years, and I used to do it because of the triple threat in ECW.
Don't lie, Gary. It was all about the white power. Stop fooling.
Sure. And the Dudley Boys used to hold it up also because their finishing
3D.
move was 3D.
Yep.
But these people were convinced, absolutely convinced, with no evidence whatsoever. And you're not talking about, like I said, you're not talking about stupid people. You're talking about a certain level of intelligence. Absolutely convinced with no evidence, to the point of letter writing campaign and trying to organize like a boycott and all this other shit. Like, I can't understand people that just believe shit. I can understand the disbelief and the distrust, but I can't understand the belief in random shit.
Beliefs.
Yeah. And I'll send you that article later if you want it, because it was really about the intelligence of the Jeopardy people and how they just adopted this group think of it's a white power sign. And the guy is so traumatized by the whole thing that he didn't even respond to their request for a comment. And it used to be a cool thing when you were on Jeopardy. And there was a comment from somebody, I don't know if it was a member of his family or what, that he's just trying to put the whole thing past him. Like, he can't even enjoy the fact that he was on Jeopardy because somebody decided that he was throwing a white power sign. And by the way, when I used to flash the thing in pictures back in the 90s, nobody thought it was a white power sign back then. So be careful, because the thumbs up you put up right now, somebody 10 years from now can say that that's a white power sign, and then suddenly you're canceled.
But are we actually digging back through? Like, was this guy recently on Jeopardy and this happened to him?
Oh yeah, it was recent. But there's plenty of things I've seen come up in other contexts where it's like from years ago, and suddenly people are trying to rewrite the history or canceling people for things they did years and years ago.
Well, I also
how many people do we know that have gotten into Facebook jail because of something they posted 5 years ago? I know a bunch of those.
Well, that is silly. But I think that everything has a case basis. Um, if it comes out that you were, raping people and they cancel you 10 years later because the information comes out, I don't feel bad about that.
Oh, sure.
But
I mean,
if you just said something dumb, like if you just said something dumb and you're not,
Well, what if you innocently held up 3 fingers?
Yeah, well, I don't agree with that. You'll never get me to agree that that's asinine.
Yeah.
There are people who do hold up 3 fingers, and I get it. There are people that hold up 3 fingers, and they're intentionally doing it to, show the white power sign. But this guy was definitely not doing that. I don't even need to read the article to know that he wasn't doing that.
Yeah.
But I'm also not a fucking idiot.
Well,
you also have to understand. I actually know people who have been on Jeopardy, and I know people who are currently in the contestant pool. Mm-hmm. Most of them are damn near autistic because they have a level of information that the rest of us just can't fathom. So that means their understanding of perception around how people operate is totally different than you or I. Which means they could easily run off the rails with some nonsense like this. You show me that picture, I go, son of three sign, and I might want to know why, but I wouldn't run off and be like, he's holding up a white power sign.
Right.
Now, you show me some guy that looks like a skinhead or looks like a white power character or whatever holding up that in a picture with a bunch of other people holding up that, I go, they're probably signaling. There's a difference. Right. And it's subtle. It's nuanced. And people that would be on Jeopardy don't have that ability.
Right.
So I'm not surprised, like, to be honest, the way that you've described the goings on either side. And I'm not surprised that it has crushed that guy to the point that he doesn't even want to deal with it, because he falls into that same territory of people who struggle with the public and things of that nature. So for him, this is like a big kick in the dick.
Right. But this is the thing. What's accomplished by this whole bullshit witch hunt?
People feel good about themselves, I guess. I don't fucking know.
But it goes back to what I said earlier about selfie culture and all that shit. It's like it's bullshit reasons. You're trying to jam somebody up just for funsies. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well, I wanted to actually have this conversation about selfie culture with, and we should probably have her on soon, my friend Megan. She's friends with Jeff. And, I mean, she's friends with a lot of my friends for that matter, but we're also just friends on our own. And she wants to actually come on and talk about selfie culture specifically. So we should have her come on.
I'm all for it, because I've seen more and more talk about it, but I feel like when I first started to really realize it and start to be vocal about it was before I saw it talked about a lot. And I realized we were getting, as a culture, we were headed in that direction more and more. And it's just grown exponentially. And there's an article I have to send you that one of my friends posted recently that was just about stuff like that.
You probably, it's not something that you would probably notice, but I haven't posted a selfie or a picture, a self-taken picture, publicly in 13 years. Why? Because I'm not that narcissistic. I don't give a fuck what my face looks like,
Oh,
and I don't think anybody else does either, and no one should.
I don't do it, and you'll see plenty of pictures of me like on stage or whatever, but very rarely do I take a picture of myself, and that's my own personal thing. But
pictures somebody else took of you or of me, no issue. Like I would post that. I have posted that, but there are people who have thousands and thousands of pictures on their phone of themselves, and I understand that, you know, you're looking for the right picture or whatever, or if you're doing it as a business or something along that line, it's a totally different situation. You know, there are girls out there and dudes out there with OnlyFans and Patreons and yada, 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 and you've got a whole bunch of followers and they're giving you money. It makes sense that you got to take a bunch of pictures. But if you're regular Joe Schmo wandering around, I don't need a picture a day of you. I just don't.
No, but see, I refer to it as selfie culture, and there are plenty of people who take selfies that aren't in this mindset, but there are a lot of people more and more who are, which is where they're just so consumed with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the problem is. And I sent you both of those articles, by the way. My friend Tony Tidbits, who's down from Baltimore, D.C.
I know him. We're not friends, but I've known of Tony for a long time.
Good friend of mine who I've known for a very long time. He had posted this, and then we had a little conversation about it. He posted these two articles. One was talking about America turning into an oligarchy, and Trump and the Republican Party. What Donald Trump was proposing and trying to institute is a fairly common form of government, a variation of authoritarianism called oligarchy. They seem like they are increasingly becoming one-man rule governments, but authoritarianism is just a midpoint after oligarchs begin corrupting democratic governments that have not yet become full-blown fascist oligarchies. Oligarchy is when the very rich rule a country largely for their own benefit, which sounds right on the money, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
They typically bring along a charismatic but compliant leader at the top, often an oligarch himself, and if he doesn't start out that way, he certainly ends that way, and are supported at the bottom by authoritarian followers who feel insecure about their personal and economic prospects and want a, quote, big daddy, unquote, who will soothe their anxieties, affirm their victimhood and outrage, and help them sleep at night. Does any of this sound familiar to you, Len?
Most of it.
Yeah. So there was that, and then the other article, which was a follow-up that he had posted also, and he said it was a nice companion piece, is how our societies are turning sociopathic.
Well, that's obvious.
So that just feeds into all this stuff that I'm talking about. But we're so self-absorbed. Because here's a perfect example, okay? You've owned pets in the past. I own pets, and I've owned pets over most of my life. Trump was the first president in a long time to not own a pet.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually was on record, like, making derogatory comments about it. And on the surface, it just seems like, okay, whatever. But owning a pet shows that you have compassion for other living things.
Right.
Because you are that caretaker. Besides having a child, which is a whole different operation, owning a pet is a very selfless act. So it makes perfect sense that, of course, Trump doesn't want anything to do with it because he's too consumed with himself. But that just feeds into this because you're talking about a lot of people that are only concerned with themselves. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about selfie culture. I'm not talking about people that all just take pictures of themselves all the time. I'm talking about that's a symptom of it. You know, that's one part of it, but it's the whole idea of these people are taking pictures of themselves because they're just consumed with themselves and their own image and their own what gives them self-worth, and they don't care about anything or anyone else. They're not interested in making things easier for you as another person on this planet. They only care about what's good for them. And we've bred so much of that in this country that it's an epidemic at this point, because these people don't care about anything else. They'll yell at the guy at the front of Walmart because they don't see that person as a human being.
Right. That I 100% will agree with you on.
Right. The same way we talked about the Mexican kids in the cages, but these are things because they don't see them as human beings. But this is how we end up with racism, because you're black. They don't see you as a human being.
Oh, 100%.
And this is how we ended up with Nazi Germany, because they didn't see the Jews as human beings. Because it's real easy to disconnect and send them into a gas chamber or hang them human, or perform experiments on them when you don't see them as human. Mm-hmm. Or lock them in a cage at the border. This is how all this stuff happens, because it's a disconnect, because you're so wrapped up in your own shit that other people are no longer human to you.
So, have you watched or started watching The Handmaid's Tale on Hulu?
That is so funny you mention it, because I started to watch it, and I swear to God, Len and I did not discuss this beforehand because I was going to talk about this. I finished episode 3 this weekend.
Okay.
And I think I'm tapped out. I don't think I can get through it.
Why?
Because it's just so extreme. And I'm just like, fuck. Like, this is so fucked up. And, like, I watch a lot of fucked up shit. Like, I've watched Faces of Death. I've watched wild-ass horror movies and science fiction shit. Mm-hmm. All kinds of shit. Like, I watch movies with people getting ripped in half. But this shit is another level to me. And, like, I may eventually go back and continue it. But, like, for now, after 3 episodes, I'm like, this is, oh, man. It's intense. Like, it's hitting another level for me that nothing I have watched or consumed in any form has gotten me to this point where I have to kind of put it down for a while. Like, I think maybe once I've hit something, there was a very specific thing in the Walking Dead comic book that made me put it down for a little bit, that I was just like, this is too much. It was a very graphic thing, and it wasn't even something that happened. It was a description of something that had happened that was just so fucked up on so many levels that, like, I had to put it down for a few minutes. And
do you remember what it was? Because I'm having a hard time, like, picturing what fucked you up so hard in The Walking Dead.
It was a description, because it was the comic book, not the TV show. Mm-hmm. It was a guy talking about something with, I think it was his son, and basically, like, taking out his eyeball. And it was the whole idea of, like, trust, like, your child trusts you, and it was just so fucked up on so many levels that, like, I was just like, oh, this is too much. Okay. And The Handmaid's Tale, by episode 3,
it's a lot.
Hit that for me. And like I said, other than The Walking Dead, I don't think I've ever, like, I've seen a lot of shit where I'm just like, damn. But I've never seen something where I actually, like, maybe out of shock, just surprised that it happened, but not something that was just so intense and so fucked up that I was just like, whoa, like I don't know if I can keep going.
So
and that happened to me with episode 3, and I was just like, fuck, like this is so bad. And I think part of it with The Handmaid's Tale is because, as crazy as this sounds, this is some shit that I could see happening.
That's why I'm bringing this up, is that
Yeah.
I'm watching this and I'm like, this ain't that far off.
No.
From something that.
And I felt that from the first
exact-
episode, and it started to kind of give me the willies a little bit.
Not exactly the way that it would happen in my mind. Like, I don't think that it would be exactly this, but it also doesn't seem far-fetched to happen.
Well,
and that's why I wanted to know if you had watched it, because I'm through the first season, and like, I know that you're feeling like you need to stop. It gets interesting.
I will probably go back to it eventually, but I had to step away from. And part of it also is just. I'm not going to spoil it for people who haven't seen it, but in the early episodes,
trying not to spoil it either.
In the early episodes, especially episode 3, they give you the background of how things progress to where it is. I mean, this part is out there, so I'll explain it to people who don't know. The Handmaid's Tale is in a history, an alternate history, I guess. Because do they say exactly what year it takes place?
No, they don't say exactly what year it takes place.
It's basically an alternate history. So it's an alternate present where. Well, I guess the best thing for me to read would just be to read it off of Wikipedia, so I don't get anything wrong. In a world where fertility rates have collapsed as a result of sexually transmitted diseases and environmental pollution, the totalitarian theonomic government of Gilead, is it Gilead?
Gilead.
Establishes rule in the former United States in the aftermath of a civil war. Society is organized by power-hungry leaders along with a new militarized hierarchical regime of fanaticism and newly created social classes in which women are brutally subjugated. So it's an alternate present where religious fanatics take over the country and women are basically like servants and baby machines.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, it starts off pretty fucked up, and they do flashbacks, which is what I'm talking about, of how they ended up there. And in episode 3, they really pick that up heavily, where you see the progression quickly, and that combined with some of the other stuff that happens is just like, fuck. Like, the end of that episode, I was just like, fuck. Like, I
honestly don't even, like, I watched so many episodes in a row because I did get sucked in, because I am thinking about it. I'm thinking about it from the standpoint of it potentially being like the real deal, and just trying to get my mind around how something like this could happen, because it could certainly happen, and I just wanted to understand the person who wrote its like point of view and thought pattern. So for me, like, I'm not really remembering exactly what happened in episode 3.
Just to jog your memory, because if I say this phrase, you'll probably remember the sequence of events. Gender traitor.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah. when the girl is declared a gender traitor, and that whole series of events. And I just stopped it after that, and I sat on my couch for a minute, and I was like, fuck. Like, I was just shaking my head like it was so fucked up.
It's definitely a fucked up show.
Yeah.
But
and like I said, I've watched a lot of fucked up shit. I watched Jason X.
Oh, well, that's just terrible.
But I mean, I've watched some really messed up stuff, and I've watched like Faces of Death, which is,
people
some
die.
of that was real, some of it was revealed to be fake later. But when we watched it back in the day, everybody thought that it was all real. But I just, and there's certain things that I will not watch, like some of that ISIS beheading shit. Like I won't touch.
Yeah, I'm not watching that.
No.
I got better things to do with my fucking time.
When it comes to fiction stuff, I've had some shit where I'm like, wow, like that's crazy. But only, like I said, that Walking Dead comic and this are the only times where I've really had to stop and just take a minute and just get my head together and just like, whoa.
That show, I know I don't tell you to do anything, and with any like force or whatever, and certainly you can tell me to fuck off. But I think by the end of season 1, enough is revealed in the story that it will pull you back from that recoil.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm trying to be as spoiler as I can.
Yeah.
It gets interesting. Like the nature of what's going on is still gross.
Right.
But there are wrinkles that they sprinkle in that make it interesting. Yeah. Interesting enough that if we hadn't been on this call tonight, I would be halfway through with season 2.
Right.
Like I would have just done that instead. Because I got that engrossed in it. And sure, the show may not be for everyone.
And I'm sure I'll go back to it eventually.
I'm just saying, knowing the things that you like, i.e. Westworld.
Right.
This fits in, for me, in that same realm of, holy fuck, this could actually happen. Yeah,
that's the craziest part of it. And I had heard enough about it from other people that had watched it. And I knew to a point what I was getting into, but it was even more on point than I thought it would be. And it really is not far from...
Like, it's possible.
It's
plausible.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely not impossible, put it that way.
I personally don't like I'm not a big fan of Elizabeth Moss, the main character in it. I just from seeing her in other stuff over the years, I was never on board with her being a great actress or anything. But I'm telling you right now, she plays the hell out of this fucking part, man.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with her. I know she was on Mad Men, and people might freak out. I never watched Mad Men.
I was not a Mad Men fan either. Not because of her, but just never watched it. I watched a couple episodes, and sure, that girl that was on it that's got red hair, I can't remember her name, but she's attractive. But
I know what you're talking about. I forgot her name.
I can't fucking remember her name. It doesn't matter. It's not important. But that's why a lot of people would watch the show, is to see that girl, and I'm like, yeah, I don't care. The show isn't interesting enough that her being on it makes it any better.
Yeah, I had always heard about it. I've never watched a single episode of it, so I'm not hating.
Yep, not
It's
hating.
it's just one of those things I never watched, and there's so much other TV on that I doubt I'll ever get to it.
Oh, I know I'll never get back to that.
Yeah,
That one's done.
there's so many other things out there. It's like, yeah, it's not highly recommended enough for me to go back and watch it. But
That's the only thing I've been watching lately is this thing, Handmaid's Tale. I don't have anything else other than just like the typical UFC nonsense that I watch.
I have so much TV that I watch. There's a lot of different stuff. Although right now, kind of in a pause right now because all the regular shows that I watch for the most part have stopped.
Mm-hmm.
There was a show on Apple TV called For All Mankind that I really liked that ended their season a couple weeks ago. Marvel is in between now. The Loki series will be starting in a couple of weeks. There's no Star Wars series on right now. What else? The
only
latest season of Mayans just ended, which was
the only
a
other
show.
thing, actually, the only other thing I've been watching